Tonight on Nova Legends podcast, I have Patriot coach Sean Finnerty, whose Pioneers are in the regional final against Colonial Forge this weekend. I believe this is the first time in school history, coach, that you guys have been in the regional final.
No, we've actually been in the regional final three times.
Oh, sorry about that. You mean it's your?
No, it's okay. Three times in the last 5 years.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, you're doing a tremendous
Haven't
job.
won though. We haven't won yet,
You've won it. Yes, there we go.
and it's also our first time hosting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's awesome, coach. Coach is from, I believe, Youngstown, Ohio. Um,
Akron, Ohio.
Akron, Ohio. He went to St. Vincent Mary's, and I think when coach decided not to play basketball, he opened up a spot for LeBron James to become a superstar. Did you went
It's
to school
actually
with LeBron?
funny. I actually going into my senior year, I had to make the decision whether to keep playing basketball or focus on football because I had to gain weight. I was a little smaller back then, and I had to gain some weight to get a scholarship. So I chose to step away from basketball and just focus on the weight room, and that was LeBron's freshman year. So
Yeah, if you would have played, we would have never known who LeBron James was, coach. Coach ended up going to Clarion in Pennsylvania. Uh, uh, unfortunately, got hurt right before he got there, but he persevered in his senior year as a starter. Coach at Puxatawny Area High School right out of college, and then found his way to Liberty Bilton, and as an assistant coach, ended up becoming a coach after surviving a tumor, which we'll talk about. It took them to the state semifinals. So coach has been to the state semis before. And then he came to the Patriot High School. Coach, did I get most of that right?
yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah. Well, let's start with we mentioned offline about the Hayfield controversy. I don't want to make this interview about Hayfield and Coach Overton. I know you've coached against him too many times, numerous times, and this year you won't have to. But we're Noakes Patriots in Noakesville, and you've got high schools everywhere. You got Brentsville close by. You got Kettle Run close by. You have Gainesville. You have Battlefield. When parents are deciding where to go to school, um, is there a gray area where these parents they ask you about whether I should send my kid to Patriot? Do you find yourself as a coach in these gray areas sometimes when you're worried about what you tell parents and because you don't want to be accused of recruiting?
You do have to be worried. One of my lines is, hey, I'd love to have that type of conversation, but if you email my athletic director, he can point you in the right direction.
Yeah. So
That's the great way to do it. I mean, nowadays they've passed rules, so we're not even allowed to talk to middle school kids until after May 1st.
hmm,
So of their eighth grade year, after May 1st, then we're allowed to have interest meetings and things like that and get information out to everybody. But we're not even allowed to talk to anyone until May 1st of their eighth grade year. And it's in an interest meeting format.
yeah. Do you ever go to a middle school game and watch them play without talking to them?
Oh, absolutely. You always want to just show support for the local teams and, just show interest in your feeder schools and, just be out in the community. So absolutely. Whether
Last
it's
last que- last question about this, coach, and I want to talk about Patriot football today and also about your background. If you can, what were some of your thoughts when you found out that Hayfield had withdrawn from the playoffs? Obviously, you wouldn't have faced him until the final anyway. So unlike last year, where you had to play against Coach Overton, if you got to the final, this year you're not going to have to face him. Do you have any thoughts about the controversy? Are you like me at this point? You just kind of glad it's behind us and want to move forward?
yeah, I mean, obviously, I know Coach Overton. We played him in our last regional final that I was in at Patriot. We played Freedom 2 years ago. Um, you know, Coach O does a great job with his kids, and obviously they got athletes all over the field, and they do a phenomenal job. It's such a lose-lose situation at this point. Whether you're administrator, whether you're coach, whether you're kids, whether you're spectator, everything's a lose-lose situation at this point. Um, even the even if it's negative, I think probably some people are just, like you said, happy to just kind of move on. It's been, such a thing. If you get too excited about something, it could be pulled at the last minute. And that's what Hayfield's dealing with right now. They were excited. They were upset about the playoffs, and then they got excited about the playoffs, and now they're upset again. It's such a roller coaster of emotions. I'm sure everybody is just happy that something's been decided.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, Coach, is that people fuss about Coach Overton running up the score, and being coach have gotten into it about that as well. But after they got withdrawn from the playoffs, the folks that were against them have been running up the score, and just, I mean, on Facebook they just brag it, and they just won't let this go. I'm like, you were talking about coach running up the score, and now you're not being a very good sport yourself. Coach, I want to talk about your background, because you've lived through some unspeakable tragedy yourself. Your mother died when you were very young. Just went to the hospital. Next thing you know, your father told you that your mother had passed. Your dad was very sick, had a quadruple bypass surgery at one point. Um, you almost thought you were going to lose one of your eyes, and you had broken bones in your face before you started college. You had a tumor when you began your career at Liberty. How has this formed you as a coach? The difficulties that you've had, the tragedies you've had, and your ability to overcome that. How has that made you a better coach and formed you as a coach and leader of young men?
I guess, they're all forms of obstacles, and I've been able to live through quite a bit of things and had some things go against me. And you learn how to turn everything into a positive. You learn how to just overcome and persevere and just keep going, right? You want to keep going and keep things focused on the future. So that's pretty much all I took from it. I see you found one of those old articles that somebody wrote about me that gave you all that information, but kids, kids deal with a lot. I got some kids on the team this year, dealing with their moms, dealing with cancer and chemo treatments. So any type of experience I can help those kids means a lot.
Yeah.
And really showing these kids that football is really just something that allows us to learn things along the way. We just keep working, X's and O's and everything. The experiences that you gain from football help you kind of accomplish and get over some of those hurdles that we have in our life that are not sports related. Because things don't go your way a lot when you're on the football field, and learning how to handle those helps you handle the real obstacles you have in life.
Yeah. When did you first know, or at least think you were going to be a successful coach?
I don't know if I ever said, well, I'm going to be a successful coach. Luckily, it's kind of worked out that way. I always wanted to be a coach. Back when I was in high school, and you gotta go to college, you gotta pick that major. I wanted to be a teacher and be a football coach. And one of the things that I've really carried with me when I interviewed down here at Liberty Bealton with the head coach at the time, Tommy Buzzo, who went on to be a college coach and be successful in his own right. When I interviewed with him, he said, "What do you want to do? Who do you want to be in this profession?" And I said, "I want to be a head coach." And right there, he told me, like, well, that means you got to work and you got to do things that maybe not the other coaches want to do. If you want to be a head coach, you got to do more. And I really took that and ran with it and tried to be everything I could be, learn offense, learn defense, and just be prepared. And I've kind of carried that with me even when I interview my assistant coaches. I've been lucky to have, about 5 or 6 assistants that have become high school head coaches. And when you interview them, you say, "Hey, what do you want to do with your coaching profession?" Some just want to be a position coach. Some want to do more. And those guys that say they want to be a head football coach someday, those are the guys that you really rely on to help run a successful program, because they're going to do the extra things that you need.
Yeah.
So like, I've really, I've been lucky to have some good football teams, and I've been lucky to have really good players and really good assistant coaches. I have been blessed to be on some really good coaching staffs. Like, as I said earlier, I have had quite a few guys become head football coaches, and they help me look better than maybe I would on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so, a coach is an administrator. He's a politician dealing with parents and school administrators. He inspires, he's a salesman. A coach wears so many hats. How important to a successful coach are X and O's? How important, if you have all the other things, you're a great leader of other coaches, you're a great teacher to coaches, you do everything right. How important is it that you're great with the X and O's?
I mean, that's been one of my, that's been one of the things I've stood fast with my whole coaching career. I think we're really good X's and O's wise. I've always made it a point to continue to learn. You know, I will never be that person that thinks they know everything. It's very easy. If you can convince me of something, I'm going to learn it. I'm going to embrace it. I've been on some really good football teams, but I've never been on teams that are so athletic that they can get away with bad X's and O's.
Mhm.
I think if you talk to people in the area, they'll tell you, like, schematically wise, we're one of the tougher teams to go against because we do a lot of things. We are, I believe, well coached, well disciplined, and especially in the situation, we are down quite a few guys right now, um, due to other reasons and injuries. We're down to down 8 starters. So when
Wow.
you're down that many guys and you're trying to make plays, you better be good X's and O's wise.
Mhm.
Uh, One of the big things, though, I tell everybody, it's not how well you know the plays, it's how well your players know the plays. So X's and O's are great, but if your kids don't understand the X's and O's, your kids can't execute on the same level. Those X's and O's really don't mean much. So it's not just the X's and O's, it's how well your kids know the X's and O's.
Yeah. How quickly do you change as a coach? As you seen your evolution from St. Vincent Mary's, from your college days at Clarion, to a young coach, to assistant coach at Liberty, and also head coaching at Patriot. The game is always changing. You're learning. You're adjusting to personnel that you have that'll work. How quickly do you change as a coach, or do you try to have certain truths that you stay with, and then adjust to the game or the personnel that you have?
You got to have your core, you got to have your core base structure that you work from. Like offensively speaking, we are a gap scheme offense. When it comes to the run scheme, I'm a keep it simple guy. So we're all gap scheme. We might make things look difficult out here, but gap is what we do, and we do it really well. So we work off of that, and when you come up with an offense, you'd want to have an offense where you can plug kids in at. You don't want to have an offense that is geared around, let's say, a specific player, because those players leave. And then now what do? You have to come up with a new offense and you have to adapt, on a yearly basis. And we don't want to do that. We want to have a base core that we work from. And then if things happen within your system, you can adapt and do new things, So, right now we're doing a few more things, a few, quicker passes here and there. We'll say longer handoffs, maybe you add some RPOs onto your game. You got to open up the run game. You want to get a guy out of the box. You get a linebacker or safety out of the box, with your passing game opens up the run. So you have to be able to adapt like that and changes because, you lose a player, you can lose a player instantly. If it's graduation, you got to be able to change and adapt. Defensively speaking, I'm a multiple guy. One of the things I learned as an assistant coach was I wanted to make sure we were always multiple. So you can win a lot of games when you're in your regular season. Eventually, you're going to get to someone in the playoffs that is really darn good, and they're going to take things away that you do. you have to be able to adapt and have multiple ways of stopping someone and multiple ways of scoring. So if you are too single focused, and let's say you're run, and then you run the ball on everybody all season, but suddenly you get to the playoffs and you go against a good team that takes the run away, you're not going to have a way to win. So you got to be able to do other things. And I've always preached on us being multiple, whether it was offensively or defensively.
Yeah. Coach, when you look back on your Ohio days, your Akron days, is the football culture in Ohio different than Virginia? I would think. I know they have some big time private schools in Ohio, and they play at an extremely high level. I remember one time I drove through was it Steubenville. I was going towards taking my grandfather to Mountaineer Park in Chester, West Virginia. But I saw this huge football field, high school football field in Steubenville, and it looked like it held like 10,000 people. Does high school football mean more in Ohio than it does here?
You know, I don't know if it means more. Maybe good high school football, maybe more established there. Uh, but when it comes to actual football, I really believe that your Northern Virginia, your Richmond and Beach area high school football down here in Virginia rivals that of Ohio. What's different about Ohio is private schools compete against public schools.
I like that.
So what you do is if you're a private school, you compete like a 500, 600 kid private school in Ohio will go up against, a 12, 1,400 public kid school. So that's how they try to keep it fair. You have less kids, but you're private, so you can recruit and do things like that. So that tries to even it out. But you talk about big stadiums. There's a stadium that holds 20,000 people. Canton Massillon. They have a documentary about them.
Yeah.
Boys are born with a football. Girls are given pom poms. So like there's some really long tradition out there in Ohio. But when it comes to actual football, I really believe Northern Virginia, Richmond, and Virginia Beach, those areas are really good football wise, and I believe they rival anything that you can see in Ohio. My Ohio boys want to argue with me about that. Obviously, I'm a little skewed because I'm a part of this now, and Virginia's home, so we have that argument all the time. But I really think they rival. I really do.
Yeah. Well, you played Division III football, Clarion. Would you ever be interested in the challenge of coaching Division III football? What is Division III football like? And is it much different than big time high school football?
Like don't slight me now. Clarion University was Division II,
Oh, I'm sorry.
so
Sorry, coach.
no, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Clarion's in the PSAC, so they play with the Slippery Rock and Indianas and
Oh, really?
Cal.
Yeah.
Shepherd.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all in the PSAC. I've had some job offers to coach in college.
Mhm.
It's just one of those things I'm not able to do right now. I got two young girls. I got a 10-year-old and 8-year-old daughter, and I can't just move. I just can't pack up and move and go coach high school football and take a paycheck or take a pay cut. That's what most people don't realize. You start coaching Division III football. I've had a couple Division II offers to go coach O-line, possible coordinator positions. And, when you're starting at a subpar Division II level, position coach, you're making 40 grand, and people don't understand that. Like it's quite the pay cut from someone that's, has a established job that you've been doing. So, being a teacher for 20 years, it'd be quite the pay cut down to 40 grand. So you can't just uproot and leave and live off 40 grand with your two daughters. It just doesn't work that way. So maybe when my girls graduate and I'll have the ability to kind of go do that and, retire from teaching and go coach college. That possibly might be in the future, but no time soon.
Yeah. Um, Coach, at Poxitani, your first high school job. And it was a struggle at first. The team didn't have much of a tradition. Did you get a good sense of Pennsylvania football there?
Yeah, like I said, I had an idea, playing football at, Clarion and meeting all the guys who are all from Pennsylvania. They give you a background of PA football. And I tell you what, I still don't know if I could tell you how they do their playoffs. Their playoffs are wacky in Pennsylvania. But yeah, Punxsutawney was a struggle. We went 0-10. My 1 year at Punxsutawney, we were 0-10. So it was a struggle, but you know, football's. I think you learn that being in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia. Like high school football is important no matter where you're at. You know, yes, do you have bigger stadiums down in Texas and down south, and maybe some of the places in Ohio? Yes, you got bigger stadiums, and maybe some more money has been put into it. But kids are kids, coaches are coaches. Kids love high school football. People live and breathe it no matter where you're at. So whether it's Western PA, Ohio, Virginia, good football is good football, I believe. And it's what we do. We have a passion for it. It's what you do. You have such a passion and following so many teams and doing so many things and podcasts on so many things that you're involved in. Passion is what makes us do what we do when it comes to high school football. So the location, I don't really think matters.
Yeah, football's football. Did you ever meet Punxsutawney Phil?
I was there, the 1 year I was there. It's crazy. 40,000 people show up in this little town to see a rodent pop its head out of a hole. So it's quite hilarious. The kids get 3 days off of school because they use the buses to transport everybody around town. So yeah, I saw the one time they have a groundhog zoo that you can see them whenever you want. It's definitely a funny tradition.
Yeah, sure. Well, Coach, what did you think about Bealton? So that was your first experience in Virginia. So what gave you the I think so what gave you the idea to come to Virginia and did you like it out there?
Yeah. So the athletic director at Punxsutawney High School, who got me to coach at Punxsutawney and teach there, he left to take an assistant coach job at Liberty Bealton. So he left, went down there. I stayed at Punxsutawney, and then he came back up visiting in the spring and said, "Hey, there's an open social studies position. Very good football team. Tommy had one of the winningest teams in Fauquier County history. Buzzo did a phenomenal job for the decade he was at Liberty High School. Always won. In fact, I believe we went 9-1 the first year down in Virginia. So he talked about the program, and I was excited to get to an established program and a more established teaching position. So I came down. I interviewed on a Wednesday, and I got offered the job on a Thursday.
Yeah.
So I drove down in the middle of the night, got down here very late. I think I got about 3 a.m, took a little nap, interviewed at 6 a.m., and the rest is history. I really like, you know, I got used to the rural area after living in Punxsutawney, and Clarion University is a rural university where the university is really the town, and the town's kind of centered around it. I started to get used to it after living in the inner city. When I went, grew up in Akron, Ohio, and went to St. Vincent St. Mary. I mean, there's 350,000 people there. So very different than, Liberty Bealton, where you have you got a few stoplights and Opal, and everybody knows Liberty High School because they see it on their way down to the beach off Route 17. But it grew on me, and it became home. And I still live in Fauquier County. I live in Warrenton. It's only a not 25-minute drive to Patriot. So I didn't even have to move when I took the job from Liberty to Patriot, which helped a ton.
Yeah. Are the kids the same in Liberty as they are in Patriot? I mean, it's a little more suburban than rural, Nokesville. So
Yeah.
it's closer to DC. Do you find the kids the same to coach, or they're different?
You know, I think kids are kids. You have the same group of kids. It was a you maybe have a few more, maybe a few more from the right, a few more from the left, pushed a little further, a few more farmers down in Liberty, but you also have Remington. So you have a few more, inner city kids there. It's a good mix. I really think both schools though, you know, have a eclectic bunch to be honest. But kids are kids. I think no matter where you're at, if you're being a teacher and you're a coach, like you're in the kid business. So I think you adapt to all situations.
Yeah. Well, you got to the state semis at Liberty, which must have been a huge moment in your career. Talk a little bit about that run you guys had that year.
I mean, it really was a blessed season. We were really good. I had a lot of good football players on that team. I had a really good offensive line. Most of them played at least one season of college football. I had a lot of good running backs. I had an athletic quarterback that, went for 1,500 yards rushing, 1,500 yards passing. Um, he was similar to what I could have done with Sam Fernandez when I had him a couple years ago. If if he would have stayed healthy, he would have been kind of that same guy. But it's the same offense. I just had a lot of good athletes that season and a lot of good seniors, really well led. We lost one game early in the season to Broad Run High School. We were 4A at the time. Broad Run was 5, a successful 5A team. We lost to them on a last second play, and our kids realized that they could play with anybody. We went on to beat a 5A Mountain View that year and a 5A Orange, and the kids got a lot of confidence, and we took it in to the playoffs and made quite the run. We had to go all the way down to a Jefferson Forest, an undefeated Jefferson Forest that year, and ended up playing Salem in the Final Four. Um, we got to Salem and playing at Salem, where they have the Division III national championship.
Mhm.
It's quite the stadium. And my kids were like, looking around and they're like, we made it. I'm like, no, no, no. We got one more game. We got one more. We got to win one more game to get there. But we lost. We lost by a couple scores to a very talented Salem team that had multiple Virginia Tech football players, and just we were a couple skill kids short. I thought of doing something special that year, but it was, a great run. To go 12-2, something to be proud of.
Hmm. Why did you decide to move to Patriot?
I needed a change. I guess the good, what people use, they always, I needed a new challenge. I needed a change. I wanted to kind of start things over again, and, build build a new staff and, bring my, I won't say smaller, but bring my offense, my defense to a bigger school, going from 1,200 kids to 3,000. That I just knew there was a lot of potential at Patriot. I knew there was a lot of potential, a lot of kids in the hall, a lot of good football players there with, the ability to, get a pay raise and not even have to move. It just made sense. It really checked all the boxes. A great administration. I knew I would be supported, and it fit. It was a really good fit for me.
Yeah. It must be a tremendous energy to be around all these new kind of schools that are building culture, like Gainesville and Battlefield. They're not that new anymore, but they're newish.
Still,
Is it Kettle Run? Is it kind of nice being in an area that's growing and lots of new traditions being formed?
yeah, everyone's trying to show that, they're the established ones and they got the established culture, and, where we're still trying to build that and show things because, I'm only in year 6. You know, my Patriot football is very different than, you know, Brud's Patriot football, the coach before me.
Mhm.
You know, we had very different philosophies, both very successful, both won a lot of games. We just do it different ways. So trying to establish that and how we do things. And then you have the brand new shiny ball with Gainesville coming in that, you know, people, you know, everybody wants to go to something new. So, you know, you're trying to show what we do and how we do things. And it's tough because you have a lot of schools very close together. You know, it's one of those things. It's like, man, imagine, you know, we talk about it because Gainesville is where we lost most of our kids because we're down under 2,000 now.
Mhm.
So we were at 3,000. We're now just under 2,000.
Yeah.
So a lot of those kids, you know, went to Gainesville. So we laugh and we say, man, imagine if Gainesville and Patriots kids were together because then
Yeah.
how scary that team would be, you know. So it's
But they're not done. They're not done building yet, coach. They're going to keep building developments in that area. So you're
oh,
going to
I
move
know.
back.
There's I think they're trying to build not far. I think they're trying to build a school between Patriot and Kettle Run now. So
Is that right? Wow. Yeah. That's
yeah,
like
so
Loudon. I live out in Loudon.
exactly. You
There's a school every like mile and a half. I mean, they
correct.
keep building these schools. It's crazy. So look, coach, my good friend Sherman Rivers is a wildly successful basketball coach at Patriot. Why is Coach Sherman so successful?
Hey, he works. He works, and it's you know, Sherman and I are good buddies. You know, we talk every day. We hang out. Like he works. He puts in the time. He puts in the effort. He cares about his kids, and there's Coach Rivers is never going to be outworked by anybody. And those kids believe in everything he does and everything he says, and that's why I mean they're great examples of him on the floor.
Hmm.
You know, because they exemplify their coach.
Yeah, they're much nicer guys than Coach Rivers, though. No, I love Coach. Just kidding. So, one thing that's interesting, fascinating about Prince William County is how intensely you guys are covered by social media. You gave me the compliments of what I do, and I appreciate that, Coach. But Alex Koo is an amazing resource for Prince William County kids. I know his son was a football player for you there. Alex does a great job of covering all of Prince William County, but particularly Patriot. I think there's a Patriot bias there, Coach. But what has that done? All that social media coverage has that created another energy in Prince William County football?
Well, I mean, I think everybody knows about everything going on because of social media. You know, like you know what this school's doing and you know what that school's doing all because of social media. I mean, 10 years ago that was not the case. You know, it was if you're covered maybe you know every couple weeks Inside Nova would come out with something and talk about you, but now I mean, if you're doing something on Friday night, everybody knows about it Friday night.
Mm.
You know, so you're able to have your thumb on everything. And with so many different, you know, whether it's, you know, X or Facebook or Instagram, there's things being put everywhere. And, you know, obviously there's a lot of positives and negatives when it comes to social media, but the positives is these kids are getting the attention they deserve. You
Mm.
know, they do so much hard work and they put themselves out there and they're trying to, you know, represent their schools in the right way. And when you have so many avenues to give them attention, I mean, it's great. And then it helps them when it comes to college. Because right now, with the college situation and with the transfer portal and the lack of scholarships available for rising or for graduating seniors, you know, because how it works with college now, you have, if you had, let's say you were going to have 40 scholarships, well, you're keeping 20 to 25 of them for the transfer portal. So now you're down to 15 or possible 20 rising freshmen when it used to be 40. So without people like you guys and, you know, the Alex Coos highlighting these kids and spotlighting these kids, you know, a lot of them would go unnoticed. You know, but people, there's, you know, college have people that literally just follow social media to find out what's going on with these kids. So it's a great avenue for that.
Yeah, it's great. It's so much fun to watch. And It's if I miss a night out, like tonight, I was going to go to the Lake Braddock West Springfield game, but I'll know I'll be able to watch it online, and then I'll be able to get all the
That's
comments
right.
on social media. So it's great. Well, coach, just get to your team this year because it's been an incredibly surprising season. You have great talent, but you're probably a little bit surprised in the way you got here. It's not every day that I believe you're a fifth or fourth seed. You're fourth seed coach, right? Or you're fifth?
We were a 5 seed.
You're five, and you're playing a sixth seed in the
Yeah.
final, which is incredible. When you look back, in July, August, when 2 days are getting ready to start, or maybe it's 3 days now. Did you think you had a good chance to be here? You would have never guessed this is the way you're going to get here, but did you think you had a chance to be here at the beginning of the year?
Yes. I mean, going into the season, I thought it was one of the best football teams I've ever had. And like I said, having a team that went to the Final Four, having a team that, probably gave Freedom their best game of the year a couple years ago. Like, we've had some very good football teams. I felt this was our best. We had people at all positions. I felt our starting 22, I would put up against anybody. I'd put up against anybody in the state. I really felt strong about that. Did I think we would go through, the adversity that we have with losing so many starters, and now that starting 22 that I put up against everybody in the state, a lot of them aren't there anymore. So, did I think, we would go lose our last 2 games of the regular season and drop down to a 5 seed? Absolutely not. That was not in that, as I told someone earlier, that wasn't on the bingo card. We thought we were, when we were 7-1, like we felt, and we were hitting our stride. We just beat a very good Mountain View team handedly, and we're feeling pretty high. And then, like I said, we got hit with some, bad news, and we had to figure out how to handle it.
Well, coach, you got my attention when you came out of the gate and beat a really good Westfield team, and you trounced them. I think you beat them. I think you put 40 up against them. I forgot exactly. You must have known you're on the right track when you beat Westfield that day.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we scheduled them. We put together a hard schedule for a reason, because we wanted to be prepared going into the playoffs, because I felt that this was a team that could fight for a state championship, but the only way to do that is to play good teams in the beginning. So we played a Westfield, a Mountain View, a Colonial Forge during the regular season before you get to your Gainesvilles and your Battlefields. So, we had probably one of the tougher schedules in the area, but it's by design. I wanted to be battle tested going into the playoffs, and Westfield, was a very good football team, and we came out extremely physical in that game, and really just hit our stride really quickly in that game, and things kind of went our way. And I mean, obviously they're a good football team. They only lost to 2 teams all year, us and Madison.
Yeah, they have so many good skilled players. It's ridiculous.
They do.
They're ridiculous. Well, tell us about the Colonial Forge game, because that game is going to be important in a few days. Well, tell us about the first. I mean, the first
Forge,
the first one,
the first game.
Yeah.
They played amazing. At least up until that point, I knew that was the best game they played all season. And I even had, even some of their, coaches were like, yeah, that's the best we've looked. They played great. They made catches all over the field, toe tapping in the corners of the end zone. Like they played phenomenal. We gave them the ball once on a scoop and score. And, probably a combination of us not playing the best and them playing great. And, they gave us our first loss, but it was good because we learned some things. We made some changes after that game, moving some guys around, and, sometimes you don't know if a player can play against the really good teams until it happens. And so we saw this, we're like, all right, we got to make a few changes and put some kids in some better positions. So it helped us probably in the long run, and that springboarded us going through the rest of the season, because we put guys in the right positions, because we saw what a good football team could do.
Yeah. Why do you think they're a sixth seed? Is it just because of the strength of Stafford County this year?
Man, I tell you what, I can't figure out what went on down there in Stafford. You know, I really, you watch them on film and you see, so, basically, I think it was just a good amount of teams beating on each other, because you had Riverbend upsetting a few of them, and Riverbend plays different type of football. They're more of a power, they're a power run scheme,
Old school.
old school. They're playing in a phone booth, while your Staffords, North Staffords are, they want to spread you out. So it's just a different type of football, but they're all good in their own right. And I think they just kind of just all beat on each other, similar to what's going on in the SEC right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, so you mentioned your 8 injuries to your Elite 22 that you had. And, that probably definitely led to the Garfield loss. Even though Garfield, to their credit, had a great season. Shout out to Garfield, but also the Battlefield loss. Did you have to change the way you played when you lost 8 starters?
Yeah, it took us some time to figure out how to adapt and kind of change what we were doing personnel wise, play calling wise. Um, I think it was your podcast with Brian, who kind of saw that. I mean, the Garfield was literally, we barely had a practice to figure out kind of how to change things before the Garfield game, and our kids, probably just weren't ready for it. Battlefield, there's such almost a mystique surrounding them. So many good players, and us having trouble with them. Haven't beat them since 2019. I'm not so sure our kids even knew that they could beat them at that time.
Well,
We talk, we bring it up, and we try to speak it into existence, saying, yeah, you can beat these guys. We just have to do, A, B, and C. But sometimes even the kids are, they might not be sure. But once we got into that game, our kids realized we could play with them. The score was 29-7, but it was closer than that. It was 15-7 with 20 seconds to go in the half, and they scored on a kickoff return. So that momentum that they got from that to go up 22-7 at half, when we were expecting it to be 15-7, and then they scored only once in the second half. So our kids figured out, even though we lost that game, our kids realized that we could beat them.
yeah.
And that really helped us for the second time.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you had 2 untimely losses late in the year when you really want to be playing your best. How are you able to turn it around against Gainesville? That's a road game. I think their quarterback may have been out, so they had, I believe.
Kilmer was there. O'Shea for Battlefield.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
He went out in our first game.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay,
got
sorry
hurt in the second quarter.
Okay. Well, going into Gainesville, after 2 losses, I mean, were you confident going in on the road in the playoffs?
I thought we had our kids ready. We had some good practices. Our kids were able to focus on football again, and they were starting to realize what we were doing with our new personnel changes, and the X's and O's we spoke of earlier, right? The scheming. The kids were really starting to be comfortable with it at this point. And Gainesville is, it's a big rivalry game for us. Like I said, some of our kids went to school with each other because when they split. So very personal rivalry with that. We're, friends with a lot of coaches on their staff, so it was big rivalry that I knew our kids would get up for, and I knew our kids would be emotionally ready for. And they just had to see that team that was now constructed could win a football game. We went up 13-0 in that game, and our kids believed, like, we can do this. This new team that was now constructed with our new changes, we can win. It's not just coach telling us we can win. We can do this. We were able to hold on. And then obviously Noakes made a phenomenal kickoff return in that game for us to win that game. But our kids believed that somebody was going to make a play. They believe that once our kids played a little tight, right? We're up 13-0, and then they're like, "Oh, we got to make sure we hold on to this." Gainesville got momentum. They're a really good football team. I mean, they only lost to two teams all year, us and Battlefield. Very good football team. And we played a little tight and gave up the lead, but our kids just believed that someone would make a play, and Buddy Noakes did, and we were able to win that game. And that was probably the biggest key that led to the Battlefield win, is them seeing that we could beat a good football team, seeing that this new team can do it. And getting that confidence with the Gainesville win is probably the biggest thing that led to the Battlefield win.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you mentioned Buddy Noakes. Who are some of your other key players that have stepped up in this incredible postseason run?
I mean, offensively speaking, Tyler Knutson at quarterback and Buddy Noakes at receiver have really been the 1-2 punch that has kept us afloat. We've so many injuries to our skill kids, where we don't have many receivers left on the depth chart. So I think Buddy had 12 catches in the Gainesville game. He had 11 catches in the Battlefield game. He just finds ways to get open, and Tyler's doing an amazing job finding them. We're getting, Aiden Pagonis had a touchdown in the Gainesville game. He's been a big part of everything we're doing as well. Up front, we've had a few injuries here and there, but for the most part, we've been able to stay healthy there, and that's been huge because it's up front has been one of our strong suits. Sean Coleman has stepped up at running back for us. Really good lacrosse player, undersized kid, 5'8" on his best day, 150 pounds. And he's doing a great job of just trying to get north and stay above the chains. We're trying to stay ahead of the chains right now and not take, negative plays. And he's doing a great job of helping us do that. Yeah. Defensively, our front really is the reason why our defense has been playing so well. Chris Umana and Jordan Benjamin have been doing a great job on our defensive line. And then I got two first-team linebackers. Matt Canoe, he's the kid with multiple Power 5 offers. He got Penn State a couple weeks ago. He's got South Carolina, Maryland. And then Luke Roloff is my senior, who's also first-team linebacker, who really just runs all over the field and gets our defense in the right spots. And our defensive front is really the reason our defense is playing so well. And it doesn't hurt when you got people like Pagonis and Buddy Noakes behind you as well at safety, making sure everyone's okay. But like I said, you can see those are the same names, right? Same guys at receiver that are in the secondary. That's what we're working with.
Yeah, Buddy Noakes, if he keeps this up, he's going to be the mayor of Noakesville.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. So let's 12 catches a game. I'd make him at least interim mayor. So it must have been a huge moment in your coaching career to go on the road and beat an undefeated Battlefield team in the playoffs. And the way you did it was a 10-7 game. We don't have football games like this anymore. We have games when generally, it's going to be a 3-touchdown game. That's actually a close game these days. But but if it's close, it's whoever scores last.
Yes, absolutely.
10-7 is the kind of game I grew up with. That was high school football. I was class 84 at Robinson. Those are the kind of games in my day of playing football and watching football too. So I didn't see the game. I saw the Gainesville game online, but I did not see the Battlefield game. Tell us about that game. That must have been a very special moment in your coaching career.
Obviously, just with everything our kids have been through, and like I said, the roller coaster, going 7-1 and then losing 2 at the end of the year, and now starting to get some of that confidence back. To see that they could beat. I mean, they're one of the top teams in the state. We know that. They're missing O'Shea on offense, which hurts them a bit offensively, even though the Stoll kid did a really good job stepping in for him. Their defense gets all the attention. They got lots of studs over there on the defensive side of the ball. So I knew it was going to be a low scoring game. I had confidence that our defense could do the same job, though. We know each other well. We see each other at least once a year, usually twice a year. So we know each other well. So, I think Hat does a great job getting his kids prepared. I feel we do as well. So I knew it was going to be a close game. I knew it was going to be a hard fought game. And it was just like, who's going to make the most mistakes? And, they threw us the ball a few times. We had a couple interceptions, and those were that's what sealed it, I believe. That cut their drives down a couple times, which allowed us to get it. And, we had confidence in our field goal kicker. That was the only score of the half, which is, like you said, you don't see that very often anymore, where your second half points are 3-0, right? You don't see that very often. Emmanuel Apari did a great job putting the ball through the uprights just to kind of keep the momentum on our side. That's why that was so huge. And then they went for the touchdown at the end to win it. And we were able to get that interception to finish it off.
Wow. What a game. I saw a video of some of your kids walking off like stunned almost. Like did we just do what we just did? I mean, did we just do what we thought we just did? And it was a great moment for those kids to walk off Battlefield's home field with a win like that.
Yeah, I like, once again, you tell kids, hey, we can beat them. And then the kids even say, yeah, I think we can beat them too. I believe it, but to actually see it, to actually see the scoreboard 10-7,
Yeah.
it means a lot. And Battlefield's had our number, we've been on the bottom end, of a 43-42 game, right? I went for a 2-point conversion to win the game, and they stopped us, and we lost 43-42. We were up 20-7 last year against them. Going into the fourth quarter, we lose 26-23. So we've been right there, and we just haven't been able to finish it. And this game, our defense was able to hold out and get us the win.
Yeah. Congratulations again, Coach. Well, this week you play at home, I believe, Coach.
Yes.
But you haven't had any problem winning on the road lately. Is it a big advantage for you guys to be at home?
I think it's great for our kids to, not have to go on a bus, and, it would be, a nice 45-minute drive down there. So, we don't have to go on a bus, and we can kind of stay true to our schedule and what's comfortable for us. I hope we have a home field advantage, being on a Friday of Thanksgiving break at 2:00. I'm not sure if we're going to get a ton of people there. I'm hoping we do. As I told my students this week, I go, what is fun about home field advantage if we don't have a bunch of people in the stands? Where's the advantage? So I'm hoping we get a lot of people there to support the kids. And if we do, it's great, and everybody wants a chance to, hoist a banner up on their home field, right? Hoist a trophy up on their home field. And we have that opportunity now, which is great.
Well, when you have a team that you've lost to in the regular season, is that an advantage in the rematch? Because when you win the game, maybe you get complacent, maybe the kids get cocky. Maybe when you lose, you have more motivation to try new things or just to play harder. Do you feel it's any disadvantage that they beat you for the first time around?
As a coach, I think it's probably an advantage for us that they beat us the first time, because I agree with you that there might be some level of complacency there. They beat us. Now they beat us with most of our players that were down now. So that's even more of a confidence boost for them coming into this game. So it's probably an advantage for us. And, our kids, as they say, they get to get their get back, right? They get a chance to make up for that loss early in the year. So I think it works in our favor.
If you had to write your keys to the game on a chalkboard, what are a few of your keys to the game? Keys to victory?
Take care of the football. We have to take care of the football. We have to put, our drives together. Our offense has changed. We've turned into a time-consuming offense. Without the, quick. We used to be a really big, hit, quick strike offense. Now we're methodical as we move down the field. We got to keep those drives going, drain the clock, because they have a very good offense. We got to keep their offense on the field. Winning the turnover battle is probably huge here. If we can get them to turn over the ball once or twice and we don't, I think that's the key factor.
Yeah. Well, Coach, how special is it to you to play on Thanksgiving week?
It really means everything as a high school football coach. That if there's one thing, when you asked earlier, you brought up being a successful head coach. If you are practicing on Thanksgiving, you had a successful season. You can't argue that. Like, you had a successful season if you're practicing on Thanksgiving. So to be able to say that, our kids can be proud of that. My coaching staff can be proud of that. Our school community, we put our kids in the position to, wake up, and it is special. It's I open up Thanksgiving practice to our parents. So the parents will be up in the stands, donuts, drinking coffee, watching their kids play. It's special. You don't get to do it very often. I've been lucky to practice on Thanksgiving 5 times. It's 5 times, in 13 years. So it doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah. There is no Thanksgiving without football. Football is so part of Thanksgiving. Even, for me, just watching it on TV or
Absolutely.
going to a game, it's such a huge
And
part. Yeah, it is. Well, look, Coach, this has been great. I'm glad we finally did this. I've been wanting to reach out to you for a while. This was the perfect opportunity. I'm so happy for you. You're one game away from playing in the state semis, and you're going against a 6th seed. I know you would never take a team lightly, but you have to feel like this is where you need to be. You're there. I just wish you the best of luck. Hopefully at a later date we can get back together and you can tell me how you did it.
Hey, I appreciate it, and I appreciate everything you're doing. It's not easy doing all these podcasts and making sure people have the information. So I appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's great that you guys do the heavy lifting. I just get to talk about the games, which I love doing. But I appreciate the compliment. And again, Coach, great to meet you, and best of luck on. Tell us when the game is. It's Friday at 1:00.
Friday, we have the early slate, so we're Friday at 2 p.m.
Friday 2 p.m. at Patriot. So everyone
at
should
Patriot.
Go support the Pioneers.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too, buddy. Thank you.